Yeah, no doubt. Now, as far as the album, I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but as far as the album is concerned, you talk about morbid versus uplifting, and it is interesting because this record I know was made and is very challenging for you to deal with this record because you had lost your producer Kato from the beginning, and you know, in a nutshell, he died in a motorcycle accident, correct?
Yes. Yes, he did.
And this is the first record you made without him, and I know the record's dedicated to him. So that was difficult. Everyone knows you struggled greatly with the loss of Chris Cornell. So the theme of Death by Rock and Roll, am I on track saying kind of ties in with those events as well?
Of course. I mean, you know, I think that, I mean, first of all, Death by Rock and Roll, the title alone, you know, the phrase Death by Rock and Roll, that came from Kato. I mean, that was something that Kato used to say all the time. Like, back in 2008 or whatever it was when we formed the band, it was this phrase he said, and it was this kind of ethic and this code that we all lived our life by, and that I still live my life by, of death by rock and roll, you know, live life your own way, go out your own way, don't let anyone tell you differently, rock and roll till I die. And it was very much this kind of battle cry for life and for freedom and obviously rock and roll. And so when he passed, that phrase and that sentiment just became overwhelmingly relevant again to me in the kind of a new way. And so this was probably the first album that I had actually titled before I had written all the songs for it. But there's no way press has been kind of strange for me in this cycle for, you know, a multitude of reasons. One, you know, doing it all on Zoom and not leaving your house and in this whole strange situation we're all living in. But also, like, I don't think that I necessarily thought through the aspect of having to kind of relive these stories constantly, you know, by speaking about them. Like, cause I make music for myself. I write songs is almost a form of therapy. Like, you know, the writing of this record was very cathartic for me. And it was kind of the first major step I took towards healing myself, you know, cause I went very, very down there for a while into this very dark hole of depression and substance abuse and, you know, everything that comes with loss and grief and trauma. And it was music that pulled me out of it. So the creating of this album was very, you know, it saved my life. But I didn't think about having to then kind of constantly relive these stories every single day, all the time. So like almost every interview has become kind of like a therapy session in a weird way. And some days it's fine. And some days it's a little like picking at a scab that, like, you just got to be a little careful because, you know, those you know, those events and those losses and, you know, Kato was one of the loves of my life. Like, if that, you know, not romantic, you know, I didn't mean it like that, but he's my best friend on the planet. And so like that loss is, you know, and that pain, that's never going to go away. It just kind of transforms over time, and it turns into something, it turns into a scar. It turns into something that you learn how to, you know, wear with pride, I guess. And it becomes a part of you. And so this record is very much, of course it's an homage to him. I mean, for Christ's sakes, the song, you know, the Death of Rock and Roll, the first thing you hear on the album is Kato's footsteps walking down the hallway of the house aloud. And the last song you hear is Harley Darling, which is very much my love letter to him. So it's of course it's an homage to him. So even though he's not here anymore, physically, it's a way of keeping his memory alive, because I refuse to let his memory die. He was too important. And I think that that's such a powerful thing that music, you know, allows you to do. It allows legacies and life to live on past the physical being of your body, you know?